Car combat games are a rare commodity in the modern day era of games in general, but there was a time when we date back even on earlier consoles where they were more popular. If we look at the Destruction Derby series that saw massive success on the first PlayStation console, primarily with the first two games, as even to this day they're still classed as the definitive car destruction games ever created pretty much. Well, we did have others with Demolition Racer and a few others. The PlayStation 2 would also try to capitalise on this trend, but for whatever reason the PlayStation 2, while there was quite a few of these car combat games in the console lineup, they never really hit home and they never capitalised or dominated on that trend. Even the Destruction Derby Arenas, while it was an okay game in its own respects, it never capitalised on the concept seen in the original games on the PS1. But there are still some games out there that are worth trying if you're a fan of this genre. And another one of these games that we'll be looking at here will be simply known as Crash. Now, it would be known as Totals depending on the region you were in. That would be released on the PlayStation 2 and even on the Xbox in 2002. That would be inspired by the likes of Destruction Derby, that was developed by Rage Software. That is an arcade focused car destruction game pretty much, where you race around different types of tracks and arenas throughout a variety of different game modes, with the main goal being to completely obliterate your opponents and to try and gain the highest amount of scores possible in order to win all of the various championships on offer. This in turn will allow you to unlock more vehicles, tracks and other elements that you can use later on in the game. Now, with regards to reviews, the reviews themselves were kind of mixed with regards to all of the elements that were seen in the game. While it was considered decent, but it just didn't have that iconic feel that you would have seen in earlier games. As yes, it is very arcade focused, it's very bright, it's very colourful, it is fun in most regards, but it doesn't have the same characteristics that truly made the likes of the Destruction Derby franchise great. But then we have to remember this was developed by a completely different development team. While there's plenty of explosions, there's a lot of crashes, the damage physics in the game aren't as detailed when you look at, again, Destruction Derby, but even the Burnout games as well. If you look at the crash damage physics in the Burnout games, they are insane. This game doesn't really have that. And even going back to the earlier Destruction Derby games, when you damaged a certain portion or area of your car, it also impacted the overall handling physics of the vehicle itself, so that it restricted movement and also influenced various play features. Whereas with this game, the damage is visual, but it doesn't really affect the overall car's handling. Like, if you can damage the front of the car and you can rip the bonnet off the shell, it still doesn't really affect anything else, regardless of the amount of damage that you take. And you can seem to take a lot more damage than you would expect with regards to the amount of impact and crashes that you'll find yourself getting into, which is quite crazy. Now, you can damage your opponents and even eliminate some of them in most regards within the arenas, as your goal is to acquire the most amount of points from impacts and collisions that will be reflective of leaderboards. So the higher up the ranks you can get, the better chance you have of winning races. And you do have different modes as well, where you can do the likes of stunt races where you'll have to jump over the likes of buses or trucks, which you'll find that you'll have to do very early on in the game in order to proceed into the other varieties of modes that are available. So there are some different characteristics that'll keep you entertained for a while outside of the main game's content, which is fun in its own right. But there's nothing really new here that you haven't seen before, and if anything, some of the older games that I've mentioned are still better than this, which is very reflective in the game's overall reviews. But it's not to say that it's a bad game. It is a fun game to play, and it's fun to play in short bursts, and if anything, the best way to play this will be with a group of your friends. But yes, it doesn't offer up anything new in the grand scheme of things with regards to this genre overall. But it's good to play in short bursts. If you can find it cheap out in the wilderness, I would pick it up, just add to your collection, but it won't be for everybody. But I would love to know your thoughts of Crashed or Totaled, whichever region it was in, and what do you think of it overall? Do you enjoy these car destruction style games that were similar to the likes of Destruction Derby, even Burnout, or within that category, and what do you think of it overall? So be sure to share it in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of obscure and quirky games like this that were also released on the PS2, which I have covered on the channel already, then you can check out the playlist on screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.